there is a fire that has burned for thousands of years, not in a temple, not in a shrine, but in the minds of those who sought to understand life, to master themselves, and to live rightly in a world that constantly tempts us to drift. This fire is wisdom, not cleverness, not intellect, not knowledge for the sake of appearing smart, but true wisdom, the kind that brings clarity to the confused peace, to the restless, and strength to the weary. It was this fire that the Stoics tended with their words, their lives, and their examples. To become wise is to awaken, to open your eyes not only to the nature of the world, but to the nature of yourself. Wisdom is not gained in bursts, nor is it a sudden spark. It is forged through discipline, awareness, and self-reflection. It is earned by how you respond to pain, how you carry yourself in silence, and how you hold your tongue when chaos invites your ego to speak. Wisdom is how you endure, how you love without attachment, how you act without needing recognition. The Stoics believed that wisdom was not something bestowed, but something practiced, a way of life, a system of thought built to make us stronger, clearer, and more in tune with the natural order. And yet, in our modern world, with all its noise and distraction, this ancient flame feels more distant than ever, yet more needed than ever. This video is a journey, a path back to the essence. Through these chapters, we will not chase tricks or motivational hype. We will walk into the very heart of Stoicism, draw from the words of those who came before us, and plant the seeds of wisdom in our daily lives, not by escaping the world, but by seeing it clearly and choosing to live wisely within it. Let us begin Chapter 1. Know what is yours and what is not. Epictetus said, "Some things are up to us and some things are not." In these few words lies a key that can unlock peace in the most turbulent of times. The wise do not waste their energy on what they cannot control. They do not allow the behavior of others, the outcome of events, or the winds of fortune to dictate their inner state. They live by a simple distinction: what is within me and what is not. We chase so much people's opinions, future outcomes, status, the weather, the traffic. Yet none of these are ours. None of these are within our control. The Stoics ask us to return our attention to where our power actually lies: our thoughts, our actions, our choices. Wisdom begins here, not in knowing everything, but in knowing what matters, and more importantly, in knowing what doesn't. This doesn't mean apathy, it means clarity. You can care deeply about someone and still not try to control them. You can work hard toward a goal and still release the outcome. You can vote, protest, build love, and still accept that the result is not yours to dictate. That's wisdom in daily life. Begins small. When someone speaks to you harshly, ask yourself, is their emotion mine to carry when you feel anxious about tomorrow? Pause and ask, can I control what hasn't happened yet? Then return to what is yours: your response, your action, your focus. This is how peace begins. This is how wisdom is planted. Chapter 2. Master yourself before the world. The Stoics weren't warriors of the sword. They were warriors of the soul. Their greatest battles were internal: anger, pride, fear, lust. These were the enemies they faced daily. Marcus Aurelius, a Roman emperor, had every excuse to let power corrupt him. Yet in his private journals, he reminded himself over and over to remain calm, fair, just, and disciplined. Why? Because he understood that ruling others means nothing if you cannot rule yourself. Wisdom is not reacting. It is not impulsiveness. It is not being driven by every emotion that rises within, like a tide sweeping away your reason. The wise observe themselves patiently as one watches clouds shift across the sky without clinging, without flinching. They pause, they study the emotion rather than surrender to it. They do not let the first thought become the first action, nor the first reaction become a rule of life. They train the mind like a muscle, not to suppress the inner world, but to illuminate it, to bring order to the chaos, and to turn impulses into insight. They know that in the gap between stimulus and response lies the freedom to choose. And in that choice, character is shaped. To master yourself is to recognize your patterns, those habitual loops of thinking and reacting that so often lead to regret or reinforce illusion. It is to question your impulses with gentleness and curiosity, not with shame or judgment. It is to sit with discomfort as if it were an unexpected guest, not rushing to drive it out, but learning why it came and what it has to teach. This act of stillness in the face of agitation is not weakness, but discipline. It means resisting the pull of distraction, not numbing your pain with constant motion or noise, but instead sitting inside the quiet tension and asking, what is this trying to show me? It means learning to breathe through the storm rather than chase shelter at every dark cloud. Wisdom grows in silence, in stillness, in those rare and sacred moments when you say no to the childish whims of the ego and yes to the higher call of your principles. These are not grand gestures made for display. They are the quiet choices made in private when no one is watching, and the reward is simply knowing you stayed true to yourself. It is in those moments when you silence the reactive urge and listen instead to the voice of inner reason that you move closer to the essence of wisdom. It matures in the quiet courage of self-restraint, in choosing the long road over the shortcut, the hard truth over the comforting lie, the slow path of character over the fast gratification of impulse. You start to become aware of how often the ego tries to rush you into action, how frequently it demands satisfaction, attention, and revenge. But with training and reflection, you become less reactive and more composed. You see through the illusion that every emotion demands a response, and you learn to sit still in the storm, to breathe deeply, to see clearly, and to respond with calm rather than chaos. Every time you resist a destructive urge, whether it be the impulse to lash out, to indulge, to blame, or to run, you reinforce the walls of your inner fortress. And these walls are not barriers to love or expression, but boundaries that protect your clarity, your peace, and your principles. Every time you respond with dignity, instead of rage with understanding, instead of defensiveness, with presence instead of panic, you're laying another stone in the foundation of your virtue. These small acts, repeated daily, form the architecture of a wise and grounded life. And over time, that strength becomes who you are. It becomes second nature, not because you no longer feel chaos, but because you've trained yourself to remain unmoved by it. Like a rooted oak that feels the wind but never bends in fear of it. You become firm, yet flexible, grounded, yet open. That is the mastery the Stoics spoke of. Not the absence of storms, but the stillness within them. The kind of strength that doesn't shout, doesn't seek applause, but simply endures, and in its endurance, transforms everything around it. Make this practical. Pick one recurring emotional pattern: anger, envy, anxiety, and observe it like a scientist. What triggers it? What thoughts come before it? What beliefs fuel it? Don't judge it, just see it. Because the more you see, the less power it has. This is how we begin to master ourselves. Chapter 3. Be curious and always learning. The Stoics understood that the pursuit of wisdom is never complete. No matter how much one has learned, life always offers more. More to explore, more to question, more to see. Marcus Aurelius constantly reminded himself, even as emperor, that he was a student of philosophy. "If someone is able to show me that what I think or do is not right," he said, "I will happily change. This is not weakness. This is the strength of an open mind. To grow wise, we must grow humble because arrogance blinds while curiosity reveals. Curiosity is the sole signal that it wants to grow. The wise never assume they've arrived. They do not see questions as threats, but as invitations to discover new layers of truth. They are not addicted to being right, but devoted to getting it right, and that makes all the difference. They understand that every day is a lesson, and every person can be a teacher, even those who challenge or oppose us. True wisdom lives in those who remain teachable. To be curious is to lean forward into life, eager to uncover what has yet to be understood. A Stoic is not afraid to say, "I don't know, ma." In fact, that admission is a powerful turning point. It opens the door to exploration, to revision, to learning. The wise ask more questions than they answer, not because they lack knowledge, but because they value depth over surface. They do not merely accumulate facts, but seek understanding that changes how they live. They reflect not just on what happened, but why and how they can grow from it. This kind of learning is active, not passive. It is not confined to books. It is found in silence, in failure, in observation, in feedback, and the quiet courage to rethink. Curiosity also demands the discipline of focus. A mind that is constantly wandering without intent is not curious. It is restless. To be truly curious is to channel that mental energy into productive and purposeful exploration. The Stoic kind of curiosity is not idle or scattered. It is deliberate, sharp, and disciplined. It is a steady pursuit rather than a chaotic scramble. This type of curiosity focuses on deeper questions, not the kind that fuel gossip or speculation, but the kind that provoke growth. What is true? What am I missing? What belief needs to be re-examined? What fear am I clinging to? And perhaps most powerfully, what would someone wiser than me do right now? These are not just philosophical riddles. They are invitations to pause and investigate life with care. They bring us out of autopilot and into deliberate consciousness. They sharpen the soul by training the mind to explore rather than defend, to investigate rather than assume, to seek clarity rather than comfort. This focused curiosity keeps the mind agile, helps us break free from mental ruts, and builds a flexibility of thought that is essential for navigating change. Moreover, focused curiosity teaches patience. It reminds us that understanding takes time. It humbles us, showing how much we overlook when we move too fast. In a culture addicted to immediacy and certainty, the willingness to dwell in a question without rushing for answers is itself a form of wisdom. It's a practice in becoming at peace with not knowing, yet still wanting to know more. This mindset doesn't merely invite progress. It insists on it because it refuses to settle for shallow understanding. In this way, disciplined curiosity becomes not just an academic exercise, but a daily spiritual one. It builds character. It keeps the ego in check. It reminds us that wisdom is not about being the smartest person in the room, but about being the one most open to seeing the room differently. This quiet humility allows insight to blossom where arrogance once stood. It's not about knowing more, it's about noticing more, asking better questions, and remaining open to the possibility that you've missed something vital. And it lights the path forward when certainty fails. A curious mind, focused and honest, will keep growing long after the clever have grown tired of thinking, long after the noise of confident opinions has faded, and long after shallow certainty has turned brittle and collapsed. Apply this mindset by reading widely and deeply, not to appear smart, but to be transformed. Read not only philosophy, but science, poetry, history, and even fiction, because every genre holds windows into human experience. Choose books that challenge you, not just confirm what you already believe. Keep a journal and ask questions about your day. What did I learn today? What mistake did I make? What belief was challenged? What did I assume without evidence? Where did I tune out instead of tuning in? Don't just record answers. Record questions that remain unresolved and revisit them as you grow. Over time, this will become a map of your evolving understanding. Talk to people outside your circle. Listen to those who think differently. Have conversations where your goal is not to win, but to witness another's world. Observe children and elders. Both have insights that remind us how much we forget when we grow rigid. Look at nature and ask how it adapts. Watch how people behave under pressure and ask what values are truly guiding them. Practice saying, "That's interesting. Tell me more," even when, especially when you feel the urge to interrupt or correct. These are not small acts. They are rituals of the curious, and they are the root system of the wise. They keep your foundation alive, deep, and able to support greater insight. Never stop asking. Never stop growing. Let every day be your classroom, a space where wisdom patiently unfolds in small, unexpected moments. Let every experience, pleasant or painful, be a teacher, knowing that life hides its most powerful lessons inside discomfort, surprise, and the unfamiliar. Let curiosity sit beside you in every conversation and guide you through every problem, helping you look not just at the surface, but into the deeper structure of thought and emotion that shapes how you interpret the world. Let your questions be seeds, not signs of deficiency. Tiny promises of future clarity that may take time to grow. Ask even when the answers seem far away, and allow silence to be part of your learning. Let your desire to understand outrun your desire to be understood. And in doing so, discover how much wisdom exists in listening without judgment, absorbing without rushing to respond. True curiosity dismantles the ego and replaces it with wonder. Carry this mindset into your smallest moments, standing in line, washing dishes, reading a few lines of a book. Ask, what is here that I haven't seen before? What if I've been wrong about something I was sure of? How might I live differently if I really understood this? These small but sincere questions have the power to unravel entire falsehoods we've unknowingly built our lives upon. Wisdom is not a destination. It is a lifelong relationship with learning, an ongoing conversation between you and life itself. And curiosity is the compass that keeps you moving forward on that path again and again, with fresh eyes, an open heart, and a mind ready to receive what the world is patiently trying to teach. This commitment to inquiry is not just intellectual, it is spiritual. It is how we stay awake. It is how we stay free. Chapter 4. Seek the truth, even when it hurts. Truth is not always pleasant. In fact, it often burns before it heals. But the wise prefer truth to comfort reality to illusion. The Stoics didn't speak of optimism or pessimism. They spoke of truth, seeing clearly, thinking rationally, removing the fog of wishful thinking, and facing the world and themselves as they are. This dedication to truth is not rooted in coldness or detachment, but in love for what is real and sustainable. Comfort is fleeting. Truth endures. To seek truth is to commit to living awake. It means refusing the distractions that numb us. It means standing still when your instincts tell you to run from discomfort. It means listening to feedback, especially when it bruises your pride. The Stoics practiced this level of clarity because they knew that anything built on illusion, relationships, beliefs, goals, will eventually collapse. A life of truth is a life of freedom. Even when it begins with discomfort, self-deception is the greatest enemy of wisdom. It is easy to blame others to justify our failures, to repeat stories that make us feel safe. The stories we tell ourselves that we did all we could, that we were the victim, that we had no choice, can feel comforting in the moment. But over time, these stories become the chains that bind us. They keep us stagnant, reactive, and blind to the reality of our own power. The Stoics demand that we turn inward and ask, what part of this is on me? Where have I been dishonest with myself? What do I pretend not to know? These questions are tools, uncomfortable, yes, but effective. They remove the false masks we wear and show us the raw shape of our character. They cut through our illusions and leave us face to face with the truth we've been avoiding. The truth may sting, but it also strengthens. It is like a bitter medicine that clears the infection. To look in the mirror and see your flaws with clarity is not cruelty. It is the beginning of real change. To admit your shortcomings is not defeat. It is the gateway to progress. The more honest we are with ourselves, the less control our fears, insecurities, and unchecked desires have over us. And this kind of honesty is not harsh. It is liberating. It is a return to clarity. Because once you stop lying to yourself, you stop needing the world to lie to you. You no longer crave constant reassurance because you are building your life on a stable inner reality. You stop measuring your worth through the eyes of others and start looking inward for validation. You begin to accept your limits and your flaws, not as shameful marks, but as things to improve. You no longer hide from your mistakes. You study them. You stop looking for someone to blame and start searching for something to learn. You see things as they are, not just the world, but yourself. You notice the subtle patterns of thought that shape your reactions. You start to recognize the voice of your ego and the quiet signals of your higher nature. You begin to discern between emotional noise and rational insight. You stop blaming others for every setback. You stop whining about circumstances that can't be changed. You stop waiting for rescue from outside forces and realize the power you've had all along. You act. You adapt. You take responsibility. You move through life not as a passive observer, but as an engaged participant. You evolve in real time. You get closer to your highest self, not through perfection, but through the daily habit of being real, brutally honest, humbly reflective, and gently accountable. You do the hard internal work of self-examination, knowing that real growth requires discomfort. You welcome feedback that would have once made you defensive. You no longer cling to who you were yesterday because you are committed to who you are becoming. Your values become clearer, your thoughts more grounded, your reactions more aligned with wisdom. This is the path of the truth seeker. Not easy, not always pleasant, but ultimately lightening the burden we carry by lifting the veil of illusion from our eyes. When you stop hiding from truth, you also stop fearing it. When you stand on the solid ground of self-honesty, even the chaos of life feels more manageable. You no longer need to control every detail. You just need to face it with clear eyes and steady breath. The world becomes simpler, more honest, and far less frightening when you walk through it with the courage to see clearly and with the strength to act on what you see. Bring this into your daily life. When you face a problem, don't rush to explain it away. Ask what role you played. When you feel resentment, ask what expectation was broken. When you want to quit, ask what belief is driving your fear. Wisdom lives in these questions, and courage answers them. Chapter 5. Let death be your teacher. Memento mori. Remember, you must die. These words, repeated by the Stoics, often were not morbid but liberating. Death to them was not a curse to be feared, but a teacher to be embraced. It reminds us of urgency, of presence, of what matters. It tears away the illusion of permanence and lays bare the simple, powerful truth. Your time is limited, and because it is limited, it is precious. The wise walk with death, not as an enemy, but as a reminder that time is not guaranteed, and every moment is a gift, not to be wasted. Without this reminder, we forget the gift of the present. We postpone love, delay purpose, and squander presence on distraction. To live without this awareness is to drift, to fall asleep to the miracle of each moment. The fear of death haunts most lives because it threatens our illusion of control. It causes us to grasp at pleasures, to hoard security, to panic when plans unravel. We avoid risk, not because it's irrational, but because it reminds us of our fragility. We numb ourselves with distractions, consumption, and shallow habits because silence often echoes with the truth of our mortality. But the Stoics taught that by facing death directly, we do not become more morbid. We become more alive, our senses sharpen. We listen more intently. We care more deeply. We let go of what doesn't matter. Seneca said, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it." Death is not the enemy. Wasting life is to remember death, is to remember to live and to live wisely. The Stoic view reframes death from something to dread into something that sharpens us. It gives our time edges. It gives our days a shape. Every yes becomes more deliberate. Every no becomes more meaningful. When we live with memento mori in our minds, we stop tolerating mediocrity. We prioritize connection over status, meaning over image, growth over ease. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think." This is not permission to despair, but to awaken. To strip away pettiness. To speak what needs to be said while there's still breath in your lungs. To love without fear of loss. To let your words carry weight and your actions align with your values. To express gratitude freely and to live with a sense of clean urgency, not rushed, but aware that every moment holds finality. To stop wasting your days on trivial fights, petty desires, shallow validation, and all the distractions that eat away at your attention and meaning. To focus instead on what truly matters: character integrity, contribution, courage, and peace. Because death, when understood rightly, brings us back to what is essential. It filters out the noise. It demands you decide what matters most and what must be released. Let death be your mirror, not to cast darkness over your life, but to shine a brighter light on what you've been given. Let it remind you that life is not something owed, but something offered, a single fleeting flame. Practice walking with this truth, not in gloom, but in clarity. Let it infuse your choices with sincerity and urgency. Let it simplify your priorities and awaken you from distraction. Let it remind you that nothing is too small to be done with love and excellence. Every moment becomes an opportunity, not to chase perfection, but to express who you really are with honesty and heart. If today were your last, what would you regret? What truth would you speak? What forgiveness would you offer? What step would you finally take? Who would you thank? Who would you release? Who would you love more boldly? What burden would you finally set down? What dream would you stop postponing? Let those questions guide your priorities. Write them down. Reflect on them often. Speak them aloud when you feel lost in the noise of busyness. These are the anchors of a meaningful life. Because wisdom begins the moment we stop pretending we are promised tomorrow and begin honoring today as the only thing that truly belongs to us. And in honoring today, we become fully alive. Not in spite of death, but because of it. Death sharpens our vision, not with fear, but with purpose. It is not a door that closes, but a compass that points us back to what is real. When you walk with death as a quiet companion, you no longer run from time. You meet it with open eyes, a strong heart, and a soul ready to leave nothing meaningful unsaid or undone. Chapter 6. Strengthen the mind like a muscle. The Stoics believed that wisdom was not a passive trait, but something that could be trained, much like the body. Just as we strengthen our muscles through deliberate effort and resistance, we can strengthen our minds through daily discipline, reflection, and challenge. Marcus Aurelius, who led armies and governed an empire, still began each day reminding himself of the mental clarity and composure he must bring to the chaos around him. He treated every day as a mental training ground, not a stage for performance, but a workshop for inner fortitude. The mind is not naturally still. It races, it resists, it reacts. It clings to old habits and panics at uncertainty. But the Stoics knew it could be trained not to eliminate thought or emotion, but to harness them like a wild horse taught to ride with grace, to pause before responding, to reframe difficulty as instruction, to turn a setback into strength, to dwell only on what we control. Every decision becomes a form of mental training. Every temptation to react impulsively becomes a chance to grow stronger in judgment, patience, and perspective. Even moments of weakness are part of the training, not failures but feedback. You don't become mentally strong by avoiding adversity. You grow through facing it, reflecting on it, and rising through it. Even when you stumble, the awareness to see the stumble clearly and learn from it is a form of growth. That's how the Stoics cultivated inner resilience, not by escaping life's hardships, but by using them as opportunities to forge character. Mental strength comes not from hardness, but from flexibility, from the ability to meet the unexpected with readiness and equanimity. Like a tree that bends with the wind but does not break, the mind must learn both discipline and adaptability. This growth is subtle at first. You might not notice your increased patience or clarity until a challenge arises and your old self would have crumbled. A moment that used to provoke you no longer draws a reaction. A delay that once caused anxiety becomes an invitation to pause. A careless remark from a stranger no longer ruins your afternoon. The shift is quiet, nearly invisible, until you catch yourself responding with grace where you once reacted with fire. Over time, the progress becomes more visible, not just to you, but to those around you. You carry yourself differently. You listen more deeply. You breathe instead of explode. You approach problems with questions instead of blame. The angry response gives way to calm breath. The anxious spiral gets interrupted by reason. The despair gets softened by perspective. These small victories accumulate like drops filling a vessel. They are signs your mental muscle is strengthening, not just growing, but maturing, evolving, refining. This transformation is slow and uneven, like building strength in a gym. Some days you feel powerful. Your patience seems endless, your thoughts clear. Other days, you'll feel like you've regressed. You'll snap, overthink, or fall back into old habits. But the consistency matters more than perfection. The mind, like the body, responds to what you repeat. With every conscious choice, you shape its form. Every moment of awareness, every moment of restraint is a repetition. Your habits become your foundation, and with time, your foundation becomes unshakable. This is how mental endurance is built. Not in grand moments of inspiration, but in hundreds of quiet, unseen choices. Not through public victories, but through private decisions to return to calm, to keep showing up, to keep training the mind to see clearly. Put this into practice daily. Train your mind by journaling your thoughts, not just to record events, but to examine your interpretations. Use your journal as a mirror and a compass. Ask yourself, why did I react that way? What story am I telling myself? Is this belief useful, or is it a habit? What would the wiser version of me choose here? Confront your irrational fears with questions that shrink their power and expand your clarity. Face discomfort intentionally. Choose cold silence challenge and treat setbacks as teachers, not punishments. Invite friction. Embrace challenges, not as interruptions, but as the curriculum of wisdom. Build your tolerance for uncertainty. Set small challenges that test your focus, discipline, and honesty. Try meditation for stillness. Try fasting for resilience. Try pausing in silence before you speak. Observe your emotions before you act on them. Cultivate habits like intentional stillness, routine reflection, and deliberate discomfort. Practice sitting with a thought before you accept it. Like a muscle, your mind will respond. It will thicken with calm. It will widen with insight. It will grow more capable of choosing the wise path, even under pressure over time. Strength will emerge, not loud or boastful, but calm, unshakable, and ready for anything life brings. That strength born from self-mastery and built from repetition is the Stoics' true power. Quiet, deep, and enduring. It is the type of power no one can give you and no one can take away. Chapter 7, Speak Little, Listen Deeply. Epictetus advised his students, "Nature gave us one tongue and two ears, so we could listen twice as much as we speak." The wise are slow to speak, not because they have nothing to say, but because they first seek to understand. They know that words can build or destroy. They know that silence often teaches more than sound. In the stillness of listening, one uncovers truths hidden beneath surface noise. Listening becomes not a passive act, but a noble one, a commitment to understanding before judgment. They don't listen just to reply, they listen to witness, to honor what is being said, and to extract what is useful and real. In a world full of noise, silence becomes a superpower. The Stoics trained themselves to observe before reacting, to hear not just words, but intentions, to listen without preparing to respond. This is not passivity, it is presence, it is awareness, and it is rare. Today we are rewarded for speed. The fastest comment, the quickest retort, the loudest voice. But the wise understand that speed is not wisdom. They slow the moment down. They allow space for nuance. They wait. Even when silence feels uncomfortable, because they know that true comprehension often arrives in the pause. When others rush to prove a point, the wise anchor themselves in clarity. When the conversation escalates, they ground the room with their stillness. They understand that silence is not the absence of wisdom. It is often the gateway to it. They listen not just with their ears, but with their whole being. They observe posture, tone, hesitation. They pay attention to what is said and what is avoided. They listen for the emotions beneath the words, for what truth might be struggling to emerge. Every time we speak, we reveal our level of thought. The unwise speak to fill space. The wise speak to bring clarity. The unwise interrupt. The wise inquire, they ask, "Tell me more." Instead of, "Let me tell you." They weigh their words as if they cost something because they do. Every word spoken hastily can wound, mislead, or distract. Every word chosen with care can open, soothe, and guide. The wise do not speak often, but when they do, they are heard not for the volume of their voice, but the depth of their message. Their voice carries not because it shouts, but because it's rooted in substance. It is grounded in understanding, shaped by humility, and delivered with clarity and calm. True listening demands discipline. It demands that we resist the urge to dominate a conversation, that we become curious, not combative, that we become interpreters of silence, of tone of context. It means letting go of the need to impress and instead cultivating the capacity to receive. The wise learn more by listening than they ever do by speaking. And when they do speak, their words reflect that depth. Less noise, more signal. Their speech becomes an offering, not an imposition, a tool for unity, not division, a bridge, not a barrier. Bring this into your daily life. Before giving your opinion, ask yourself, do I truly understand this? Before sharing news, ask, is this true? Is it helpful? Is it necessary in conversations? Practice asking questions, not making points. Practice waiting a little longer before responding. Reflect on whether your words bring more light or more heat. Sit with silence. Let it stretch. Notice what it reveals. Let your stillness speak louder than your voice. Let your listening be your wisdom. Let your restraint be your strength. Make silence your companion. And let the few words you do choose carry the weight of intention and care. Choose clarity over cleverness. Choose understanding over being understood. Choose presence over performance. The world is full of voices. Let yours be one that brings calm insight and meaning when it matters most. In doing so, you won't just be heard. You will be remembered. You will offer the world not just your voice, but your presence. And sometimes that is the greatest wisdom of all. Chapter 8. Be grateful for every trial. The Stoics did not wish for an easy life. They wished for strength to endure the hard one. They knew that difficulty is not a deviation from the path. It is the path Marcus Aurelius wrote. The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. This is the core of Stoic wisdom, that obstacles are not interruptions, but instructions. They are not detours, but doorways. Every hardship is a lesson waiting to be understood. Every loss is a reminder of impermanence and a call to cherish what remains. Every pain is a teacher asking us to examine, adapt, and grow deeper roots. To the wise, trials are not enemies, they are the path. They reveal what we're made of. They force us to grow when comfort would have kept us asleep. They strip away the unnecessary. They refine our values. They humble our pride, test our patience, and sharpen our character. They illuminate who we are beneath the surface, revealing how much we've truly internalized the values we speak of. Life is not about avoiding hardship, but about using it as raw material for transformation. The Stoics embraced this view because it put power back in their hands. No longer victims of circumstance, they became students of adversity. Every challenge, every failure, every wound became fuel for becoming better, stronger, and wiser. They looked at difficulty not as punishment, but as purpose, as something custom-made to call forth hidden strengths. Hardship introduces us to ourselves. It shows us our mental habits, our emotional defaults, our weak points, and our hidden resilience. It demands that we let go of illusion. When everything is stripped away, comfort, ease, approval, we are left with the raw truth of who we are, and that is where real growth begins. Like fire to metal, the heat of trial refines the soul. It doesn't destroy it, purifies. The things that are false, brittle, and shallow are burned away. What remains is what can endure. Gratitude, then, is not reserved for good days. It is a daily practice, even especially in the face of difficulty. Gratitude says this hurts, but I am learning. It says I did not ask for this, but I will use it. It says this setback is not here to stop me. It is here to shape me. This is not denial. It is defiance. It is the defiance of despair, the rebellion of hope. It is a deliberate act of reclaiming meaning. Gratitude for trials is not masochism, it is mastery. It means choosing to believe that every experience, no matter how bitter, has something to teach, and that belief in itself is empowering. It gives us the courage to carry on, not with resentment, but with resolve. It shifts our focus from pain to purpose, from confusion to curiosity, from resistance to resilience. In daily life, when faced with frustration or suffering, pause and ask, what is this teaching me? When a plan fails, ask, what skill is this calling forth in me? When disappointment strikes, ask, what expectation must I adjust or release? Keep a journal and each day write down one thing that went wrong and what you learned from it. Reflect not just on the event, but on your response to it. Where were you rigid? Where did you adapt? What can you do better next time? Turn every irritation into instruction. When you're stuck in traffic, practice patience and detachment. When you're misunderstood, practice clarity and compassion. When you fall short, practice humility, not shame. These moments are not random, they are your curriculum. Make this your habit. Build a mindset where every day, no matter how small the struggle, becomes an opportunity to train your soul. Wisdom grows every time you choose growth over complaint, perspective over pity, strength over surrender. Each trial is a forge. Step into it and let it mold you into someone greater than you were the day before. Let it shape your character the way wind shapes stone. Slowly but with power. In time, what once crushed you will be what formed you. What once caused you fear will become a source of quiet strength, and what once seemed like suffering will now be seen as sculpting. Chapter 9, Embrace solitude. Not isolation. Solitude is not loneliness. To the Stoics, solitude was a sacred space, a time to turn inward, to reflect, and to realign with one's principles. Seneca often wrote of withdrawing into himself, not to escape others, but to reconnect with his own mind. The Stoics knew that wisdom grows in quiet, that only by stepping back from the crowd can we see what truly matters. In solitude, we remember what belongs to us and what does not. We take back our attention from the distractions of the world and redirect it inward to examine our thoughts, our intentions, and the values we wish to embody. We return to ourselves to become more ourselves. Solitude creates the distance necessary for perspective. When we are constantly surrounded by voices, it's hard to hear our own. When we are always reacting, we forget to reflect. Solitude offers a pause, a necessary silence in which we can sift through the noise and rediscover what is true for us. The Stoics knew that clarity doesn't come from the crowd. It comes from calm. It comes from stillness. It comes when we are willing to sit with ourselves and face the parts of us that are unresolved, unexamined, or misaligned. True solitude is not absence. It is attention turned inward. Isolation, on the other hand, is retreating from the world in fear or resentment. It is cutting ourselves off, not to grow, but to avoid. It masquerades as safety, but slowly corrodes connection. The wise embrace solitude, not to escape responsibility, but to prepare for it. It's where we clean the mirror of the mind, where we remember who we are beneath the opinions, the noise, and the roles we perform. Solitude is deliberate. Isolation is reactionary. Solitude invites strength. Isolation cultivates fragility. The Stoic does not hide from the world. They step back to strengthen their stance within it. They understand that the best way to meet others with clarity is to first meet themselves in honesty. In solitude, we listen more closely to the voice of reason. We slow down, we question. We observe the habits of thought that go unnoticed in the bustle of life. We notice the inner dialogue, often automatic and unquestioned, and we begin to reshape it. It is not about avoiding people. It's about returning to the more clear, more centered, and more honest. The Stoic uses solitude to rehearse virtue, to anticipate challenges, to rehearse how they will meet: insult with equanimity, fear with courage, desire with discipline to ask, what kind of person do I want to be when the storm hits? Who am I when no one is watching? Who do I become when everything is quiet and no one is judging? Solitude also reintroduces us to the present. In a world of urgency and noise, it slows the pace. It reminds us that we are not machines built to produce and respond. We are human beings capable of reflection and renewal. Solitude is a sacred interval between what we were and what we are becoming. The person who knows how to sit alone, to sit still, to listen inwardly without judgment, that person becomes immovable in the chaos. They are not swept away by every opinion, every demand, every wave of panic or desire. They become rooted, not because they cling, but because they have returned to the source of their own integrity. Solitude is also where creativity is born. When we step back, we see not only ourselves more clearly, but our path. We see where we have been reactive, where we've drifted, where we've forgotten to choose. We start to imagine again. We begin to build the architecture of our next steps. The more deeply we dwell in stillness, the more deeply we are able to act with intention. When we emerge, solitude deepens our thought, it sharpens our will, and it strengthens our sense of what truly matters. Make time for solitude. Begin and end the day with stillness. Step away from the scroll and the noise. Go for a walk with no destination but your own mind. Let yourself feel boredom. Let yourself be quiet. Let the discomfort speak to you. Write down your thoughts, your fears, your ambitions. Study them. Shape them. Speak with yourself as if you were your own teacher. Question your judgments. Revisit your priorities. Clarify what you stand for. Imagine the person you wish to become, and begin to shape your days to serve that vision. And when you return to the world, return with intention, less reactive, more deliberate, and deeply anchored in who you are. Solitude does not separate us from life, it reconnects us to it. And in those moments of silence, we begin to hear the voice of wisdom more clearly than ever before. Solitude is not a withdrawal from the world. It is a powerful return to self. Chapter 10. Let wisdom guide every step. To the Stoics, wisdom was not a lofty ideal. It was a way of walking through the world, a compass, a code, a constant presence in every decision, every conversation, every quiet moment. Wisdom was not about appearing intelligent. It was about choosing the right thing, in the right way for the right reason. It was about aligning your inner life with your outer actions, so that who you are and how you live form one single, unwavering path. It was not an abstract theory to be admired, but a living principle to be practiced with courage and discipline day by day. Wisdom was not something you studied once and mastered. It was something you studied always, because life never stopped teaching. Wisdom shows up not just in rare moments of clarity, but in daily habits. It speaks in how you wake up, how you treat others, how you respond to chaos. It is how you carry yourself when no one is watching, and how you speak when everyone is. It asks in every situation, what is in my control? What is the virtuous response? What would the person I aspire to be do right now? Wisdom does not guarantee comfort, It does not promise applause, but it does promise a life that is deeply rooted, internally free, and outwardly honest. It is the path of integrity walked, not for recognition, but because it is right. In a world obsessed with appearances, the wise live by substance. They choose meaning over popularity, truth over trend. The wise are not perfect. They are persistent. They fall, but they reflect. They stumble, but they don't abandon the path. They know that growth is not linear, and insight is not instant. They practice patience with others and mercy with themselves. They do not pretend to have all the answers, but they commit to asking better questions. Wisdom means remaining teachable. It means listening. It means choosing the harder, right, over the easier. Wrong again and again without needing a spotlight. The wise build their lives on a foundation of principle. And from that ground, they rise with quiet strength, with enduring clarity, and with a spirit that is both humble and resolved. They take correction without ego. They give without condition. They live with a moral compass that never points away from responsibility. To live wisely is to live awake. It is to recognize the sacred in the ordinary, to be fully present in every action, not lost in distractions, not hijacked by impulses. Wisdom teaches us to speak less and mean more, to observe more than we judge, and to give more than we take. It asks us to simplify where life has grown cluttered and to deepen where life has grown shallow. It teaches us to master ourselves so that we might serve the world better. Not from a place of ego, but from a place of principle and presence. The wise know that their greatest influence is not what they say, but how they live. Their calm becomes contagious. Their presence becomes a source of peace, not pressure. They remind others without words that a better way exists. Let wisdom be your final teacher in this journey. Let it be the standard you measure your progress against. Not wealth, not status, not reputation, but integrity. Ask yourself daily, am I living according to my values? Am I growing or just going through the motions? Am I leading myself first before expecting to lead others? Am I at peace with who I am when no one is watching? Am I aligned in thought, word, and action? Let each day be a chance to practice, refine, and deepen your commitment to becoming the person you're capable of being. Use every encounter as an opportunity to practice your philosophy. View every challenge as a test of your clarity. And remember, the path of wisdom is not about arriving, it's about evolving. Becoming wise is not an endpoint. It is a way of being, a commitment renewed each day with your thoughts, your choices, and your character. The Stoics didn't just speak about wisdom, they embodied it. They lived it in how they governed, how they endured loss, how they responded to insult, and how they navigated uncertainty. They asked themselves the same questions. We now ask, what matters, what endures, what leads to a good life? And they answered, not with words, but with example. And now so can you. Not someday. Not when life is easier, but now in the little things, in the hard moments, in the quiet hours, let wisdom walk beside you. And you will never walk alone. For in wisdom we find not only clarity but courage, not only understanding but peace, not only knowledge but the strength to live it. Let your wisdom not be hidden in books or ideals, but woven into how you rise, how you speak, how you serve, and how you love.